as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jeez.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm going to have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live, and we are live on Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast, where we are currently sitting at in the triple digits with 100 and Al McInnes subscribers now on YouTube, as well as you can subscribe to the audio as well for the show as well shortly after. It is part 2 of our playoff preview weekend. As we speak, the Pittsburgh Penguins are leading the New York Islanders 2-1 in the second period. We'll talk a little bit about that in a bit, but we say hello to Chris. Hello, Chris. How are you?
hello, I'm well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm enjoying a nice, hot, sunny, weathery day here in Vancouver, in the Burnaby area.
Funny enough, same here in Alberta.
There's no snow?
No snow. It's nice, 20 degrees and blue sky.
Wow. What has happened? Tyler, what is going on in northern BC?
It's not sunny. Not raining really hard either. We were kind of thinking it might be this weekend, but it hasn't been too bad. Just very overcast. Not very summery yet, but it's only May the 16th, so I guess that's okay.
And how is your golf game? I mean, as you know,
well, that was better yesterday, but you got to keep working at it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting a bit of a head start on the Vancouver Canucks and the Calgary Flames, who have 3 more days before they can get out their golf clubs and start golfing. Sean, you're back. Hello.
Hello. Yeah, it's hasn't. What did we did at the podcast yesterday, and now we got another one today. It's we're in playoff mode now.
Yes, we are in playoff mode. We will. Devin will be running in a little bit later. He will be doing a playoff run-in. We'll get to our schedule and what we'll be doing a little bit later on during this podcast, but we are going to be a little bit busy. But the playoffs have started. The sun is out. Golf clubs are out. Patios are a thing. The beer is out. And the Boston Bruins and the Washington Capitals opened up last night with, I would say, a pretty darn good hockey game that the Washington Capitals came away with a 3-2 overtime win. I'm not sure who had Craig Anderson either A, in their playoff pool, or B, in their bingo card, but it looks like the Capitals are going to have to run with Craig Anderson if they're going to get through this playoff run.
Yeah.
We'll start with Tyler, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I watched the game last night. I wondered, given that it was all divisional play this year, and would they flip the switch and the intensity go way up in the playoffs? And yeah, I think it did considerably so. Ovechkin was into it with Jeremy Lauzon there, just hack. Nice to see a little bit more fire in the game. And we've talked about Tom Wilson on this podcast before. Presence was felt on the score sheet last night. I bet the Capitals like having him around. So, and then he was involved in setting up the overtime winner. So it was a pretty good game all around, and always fun, I think, to get some playoff overtime on the first night.
Sean, what were you going to say?
Yeah, it was a good game to start off with. I got to see a little bit of the what playoffs can be, and we got to see our first playoff overtime as well. And it's always fun to see that step back into hockey and have 5-on-5 sudden death overtime as an option, and as what overtime is in the playoffs. I think it's special, and it brings a little extra to the entertainment and everything with playoffs.
And go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say that admittedly I didn't watch the game last night. I had a campfire in the backyard for the first one of the summer, but for the rest of the playoffs, I intend on actively watching.
Fair enough. It was just I think it was so great to hear. There was not a lot of fans, but it was great to hear the fans. I'm sorry, Tyler. As a ref, I know it's a way of it hard to hear. Refs, you suck, but at least it was a chant that we,
Well, it's amazing what 5,000 fans can do if they're really hungry to get their attention.
Yeah. That's going to be a lot of fun. Both two teams that I think everybody doesn't like, but someone's partially going to be cheering for. Tom Wilson stepped up. I think this would be a long series, and Craig Anderson looks like he's going to have to. It looks like he's going to be the guy for the rest of this playoff. I don't think that. I don't think that's the case, Kevin. I think that we're still. He could be for sure, but I think there's still some options out there. Like Ilya Samsonov it wasn't on the COVID list the last COVID list. So he is an option for them. Whether or not they want to use him and play him is up to them. But he is an option, and he is, if they think he's back and ready and 100% mentally and physically there, he is their best option. Whether or not he is. Yeah, I agree. Just what I was led to understand last night is there was supposed to be an announcement on Samsonov's availability. They did call up Zach Vakali today, so
but also that's probably partially to do with the injury to Vanacek.
Yeah, that's true too. But I mean, do we just want to quickly talk about what did we think? Did we hear Kelly Rudy and what he said about Vanacek stretching? A lot of people, there were some people a little angry at the comment. I mean, I'm not a goaltender, so I'm like, it would sound to me that Kelly Rudy would be smarter than me on that. And it would seem to me that for Kelly Rudy would not knock someone if he wasn't aware of something. Am I missing something here?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, Kevin. It did come off fairly bluntly. I interpreted like Kelly basically said part of the goalie's job is to not hurt himself. And I don't know. I'm not a goalie either. I think that's easier said than done. Just an awkward play right off the face-off, trying to get across. Kind of did the splits there. Couldn't move after. But yeah, I mean it's a real bummer for Vanacek to be hurt. Not even a period into the playoffs. Like that's it didn't look good at all.
No,
I don't know. I think Kelly went a little overboard with those comments, because you don't know, like pulled muscles and all that do happen, no matter how. Even if you stretch out properly beforehand, it does happen depending on how you move and all that. So I honestly think that he went a little bit overboard. I can understand why he said what he did, but I think it's what he went overboard.
Kevin B actually made a joke about it for sure. It's like about Jake DeBrusk and his. Yeah, I guess I looked at it from a goaltender perspective that he would know, he could tell if somebody stretched, but and maybe they're getting the direction to be a little bit more blunt. I don't know. Add a little bit more flavor. I
don't mind that, but don't I think it's unfair to Vanacek. Like he says, it's unfair to Craig Anderson, because I've got the quote up. It's that, oh boy, where do you start and where do I want to go? I guess there's part of me that I suppose I'm supposed to feel sorry for Vanacek. His first NHL playoff start, but first of all, that is a bad goal, and he just wasn't ready. You could tell immediately that something was wrong. He says, like, but I'm sorry, if you're an NHL goaltender, you should not be pulling or straining a muscle. And that's where I'm like, freak injuries happen. Pulling a muscle here, like when, especially for goaltenders, when they're going so laterally with their groins and everything, I really think it's not fair to Vanacek to put this all on him. I think you have to just say it chalk up to a little bit of unlucky there and move on and stop, and don't just hang him out to dry like Rudy did on that comment.
It was an unusually blunt comment. Let's just say.
We have Devin joining us. Hello, Devin. And he's on mute. He's on mute. He's not playoff ready.
Call it the false start there.
He's Vanacek-ing this.
At least Vanacek came out and he was actually somewhat ready for the game, unlike Kelly Rudy alluded to.
Fair. Yeah, we were just talking about that. We were just talking about Kelly Rudy's comments. I could understand why people were thinking it was offside, but I also look at it that I'm not a goalie, and it would seem that Kelly Rudy would know something that I don't. But what were your thoughts on that? Did you hear the comment?
I did. Yeah, I watched that live. It was little out of character, I think, for that type of criticism. Basically, calling out Vanacek his professionalism, but at the same time, it's hard to say. Honestly, I think that there should be some sort of criticism towards it, but the tone towards Vanacek from Rudy was a bit much for me, and that he really meant it, and it was a bit of a hot take. For sure, but at the same time, we really don't know how he prepared. So it could just be one of those things where it does happen, and maybe it didn't happen to Kelly Rudy, and that's why he's calling him out. But it doesn't mean that it can't happen to somebody else. So a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Fair. The other thing, I'm watching a little bit of the Pittsburgh Islander game. I don't know if anyone has been watching, but I know. Look, listen. I think we've totally appreciate what Connor McDavid did this year. It's incredible, all that sort of stuff. But man, watching Sidney Crosby remind me how much I miss watching regular Sidney Crosby. And I really hope we get I hope we're back to normal next year, just so the fact that we can see what this guy could do. He's still a special player. I know he's not putting all the points, but that the goal he scored, the one hand tip, the guy just his hand-eye coordination is so incredible. I still, maybe the older guy here, I still appreciate the old school Sidney Crosby, and I'm still a fan. I know that he's not going to score the highlight reel goals that McDavid does. I still love Crosby.
We're calling Crosby old school?
Yeah. He's been around now, 16 seasons? Something like that?
The Pittsburgh Penguins have never missed the playoffs without Sidney Crosby.
Just the first year, and that was it. Yeah, and then last year
technically they missed the playoffs last year.
Yeah, last year with the qualifiers. But
yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Sidney always just keeps finding something new to add to the arsenal. There's always a new trick up his sleeve every few months. Some kind of wow play still comes out with Sidney. So it would be nice to have the Canucks, for example, play Pittsburgh a couple times a year again and get to see that matchup head to head.
Well, hopefully with all the teams being vaccinated by the fall, knock on wood.
Yeah.
I don't think people are, don't appreciate Sidney Crosby for what he is, but McDavid and what he does has a bit more of a wow factor, while Sidney Crosby, he still has that wow factor, but it's not as flashy. It's the little subtle things that if you're not looking for it and you're not focusing on what he's doing, then you're going to miss it. But luckily enough, you have instant replay and after the whistle, so that other people will be able to show you that. But it's not as razzle dazzle. But he's still an amazing player. It's just love the guy.
Yeah, the way I'll put it and add on to Devin there is that I think Crosby is the smartest player in hockey in the NHL. You may have players like McDavid who have better physical skills, but no one thinks the game like Sidney Crosby, and no one thinks the game better than him.
Yeah. I agree. I guess I appreciate just the evolution of how he's played over the years, as well. I still hold an appreciation for him. I hate can I just say I hate the uniforms? Those things are, oh God, they're ugly. I'm sorry. That is ugly.
I love them. I love them. Give me more bright colors. Come on. Let's go.
I'm going to love them just because Kevin doesn't love them.
Fine. You the opposite to me. I'll enjoy my taste.
Mr. Opposite.
Which ones are they wearing today? I don't have the TV on. Is it the black and gold?
No, it's the gold and black.
Kevin hates fun, so he doesn't like fun jerseys. And
It's not fun. Mustard isn't fun. I don't.
That's not
better
mustard.
than it's better than white jerseys.
I would actually prefer white over that.
These are their reverse retros, isn't it?
I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the way I look at it is just like let's stop. Let's stop. Like we're talking to Kevin, who hated the glow in the dark Dallas Stars jerseys, which were fantastic jerseys.
I still hate them. Sorry, Derek Newmeyer. I hate the glow in the dark Dallas jersey. If I wanted to go bowling, I would go bowling.
Oh, Kevin.
Do we want an update on what's going on in the game right now?
Yeah, give us an update.
Well, it was 2-1 for Pittsburgh, and JG Pajot comes and snipes one glove side. That's a second glove side goal over Tristan Jarry. So they know where his weakness is, and now it's 2-2.
2-2. All right. Second
After
period.
all that talk that we had yesterday
Yep.
about the first goal being very key in this series, they go off and have this game where it's a little bit more wide open.
That's a third period. Sorry, 4 minutes into the third period.
Yes.
Sure. Tyler, Chris, we didn't get your picks. Is there any particular series that you're intrigued by watching?
Well, the Caps Bruins for me, not because of any particular history, but I'm always fascinated to see if Alex Ovechkin has another Stanley Cup in him. Of course, the Caps have been surrounded by quite a bit of controversy this year over different things between Tom Wilson and breaking COVID protocols, and I guess with the Bruins, there's a bit of a hate watching factor there too.
For me, I think I'm probably going to have to go with the Panthers and the Lightning series. Just intrigues the hell out of me. I think that's going to be a really fun one to watch. And if I'll have like a Western equivalent for that one, probably Wild versus the Golden Knights.
I'm one. I think I'm the only one that has picked the Wild to defeat the Golden Knights. I will either. So my bracket will either be busted or I will be winning whatever bracket. But I have the Wild beating the Golden Knights.
Isha will be proud.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, Sean said yesterday he's cheering for them. Are you picking them though, Sean?
No, I still have Vegas winning in 7. But it's a coin. That series is a coin toss for me. It's that close. Minnesota seems to have found ways to beat Vegas this year. So they match up well, and I think it's going to go 6 or 7 games. And I would love to see Minnesota win. But I just think that the Vegas's experience with they've got so much playoff experience on that team that I think that'll be the deciding factor in that series.
Yeah, I have to agree with Sean in the sense that I would love to see the Wild pull it off. But my betting money has to be on Vegas.
That'd be one of the better upsets in the first round for sure if that was going to happen. Them getting out and getting Pietrangelo in the offseason. But did you guys hear about Leonard and Pietrangelo's bet that they have going on?
No.
Oh my God. So what's happening is Pietrangelo said that if they win the cup, that Leonard has to shave his head and get Pietrangelo's face tattooed on the side of his head if they win.
Boy,
how great is that?
And Leonard agreed.
Well, Leonard's like, I have a bunch of stupid tattoos. Might as well get another one.
That's awesome.
That's hilarious.
So maybe cheer for that if it comes down to it.
Yeah,
I mean, final, I'll definitely be cheering. Yeah.
We'll just the North too. By the way, anyone have any comments, questions? Feel free to put them in there as well. The North, I kind of have a funny feeling. The first round, I think we're all on the same page in terms of Toronto and Edmonton to winner. By the way, Toronto officially announced today Jack Campbell is starting the playoffs. Devin, I guess maybe
yesterday.
What's that?
I called it yesterday.
Yeah. So, well, Devin, the insider.
Thank you. Thank you.
Insider.
But I just want to say that I have Winnipeg instead of Edmonton.
Oh, you do it? You think Winnipeg's going to beat Edmonton?
Wow.
Yes, I do. I think it might just be my heart speaking more than my head. Just because really don't want to see Edmonton do well. If we can squash everything that we can out of them, so they just blow up and they're all upset, and that makes me way more happier. But I just think that overall the depth that they have within that organization, top six, even top nine, really outplays the entirety of the Oilers. It's just whether or not Hellebuck is going to be able to stand on his head, and whether I think also whether or not Pierre-Luc Dubois actually shows that he cares, because there has been times when he has not been able to step up to the challenge, and he seems like he's playing lazy. So I don't know what's going on with him, but those will be the determining factors here, because that the Blake Wheelers, the Scheifeleys of the world are going to let a fire under each other's ass to try their best to make that. And not to mention Ehlers. What a playoff performer he is.
Oh, he's out though.
Is he out?
He's practicing. He is practicing.
I thought he's day
right
to day. Is he not? Well, and that's not till Wednesday, so there's lots of time for him to come back.
Definitely a question mark there around Ehlers. I mean, I in regards to Devin's analysis there, I mean, I want to hope that that's true, but I because I'm not cheering for Edmonton either, but I don't know. I think it's pretty hard to flip the switch the way the things went down the stretch for Winnipeg. So we'll see. I mean, the Oilers should win that series, but we're not expecting a sweep or even 5 games either.
Yeah, Sean and I were saying yesterday over some patio beers that series is going to come down to goaltending.
And I brought it up. I brought it up yesterday when we had Mitch on. The difference between Connor Hellebuck's save percentage versus every other team in the division and Edmonton. He's got a save percentage. His lowest save percentage against every other team is against the Senators at .911, and against the Oilers it's .877. Like, he has to find a way to flip that switch and become to play like we know he can. If he does, this series goes long. But if he doesn't, like, McDavid and Draisaitl are just going to absolutely ventilate him.
Yeah.
Do you keep them on the same line, or do you think that they're going to be split up?
David and Draisaitl?
Yeah.
Definitely for the games in Winnipeg, they got to split them up. That's just too easy for Paul Maurice to match up against.
Sorry, kept going.
This is just me. This is just me. I don't know if it's going to matter, because we talk about if the Jets can turn the switch on and off. Are we honestly expecting that this switch for Connor McDavid is going to be turned off? Like, he is playing at a rate now that is ridiculous, and I don't know how the Jets stop him. To be honest, I don't know if the Jets have that center that can truly match up with him. I know, look, I love Adam Lowry, and I love Adam Lowry, and Andrew Kopp, but splitting them up or not, I don't see that. I don't see that mattering. Not the way McDavid's playing here. That's just me. I just think he's on a different level.
I think you split McDavid and Draisaitl up. As Tyler said, they can fight. It's harder to shut them down if you have two separate lines, and they've got enough depth that they can split them up and have two very strong lines. With Puljujarvi and Nugent Hopkins playing well, that and being good sort of tandems with those two. Let alone everyone else that they can kind of rotate through, find who's working. Right now it looks like they've got Cahoon on the line with McDavid and Puljujarvi, and then Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, and Turris. So I think that's a decent setup for them to try and counteract what is also a very strong forward group with Winnipeg.
I think it's situational in my mind. If there's an icing, yeah, you put them both out. If they've been split up for a little bit during that period, they might just throw them together just to switch up the lines and try and get something going. I don't think it's going to be a yes or no, but I think overall they will be split up, but sprinkle them in together when they need to.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've seen all season with the Oilers, outside of a couple stretches where they played them together all the time.
Yeah, and I also think too, I think the Oilers defense, I would give him the edge over the Jets defense. I think Darnell Nurse has been playing at a fantastic rate. Adam Larson's had quietly has had a pretty good year. Devin, I'm not seeing a way that the Jets win this series. Like if Hellebuyck stands on his head, maybe, but I'm one of those guys that doubt the Oilers all the time, and I just can't doubt them in this particular series. I can't doubt them. Not the way that McDavid is playing right now. Even if Mike Smith is average, I still think the Oilers can win the series.
You want a friendly wager?
Sure.
I was about to say that I think it also will be very dependent on the tempo and pace of this series. If Winnipeg can grind it down and turn it into a more of a traditional half court, cycling, grinded out playoff series, that drastically improves their chances. But if it's a track meet, well, we all know how fast Connor McDavid is and how amazing he is at playing at that speed. So I think that'll be a big whoever can dictate the pace of the games in that series will change how we look at Winnipeg's chances.
That's actually a very solid point. Yeah.
So then where are Tyler and Chris for the other series? Sorry, Kev. I'm just driving the bus now. I don't know.
No, that's fine. Totally. No, go ahead.
Toronto, Montreal. We're talking about.
Yeah.
No, we're moving into that one. I mean, it's amazing. I think I saw a list on Twitter of all the Sportsnet on-air personalities picking the Leafs to upset the Habs, and somebody saying just pin that up on the bulletin board in the Habs locker room. I think I like the possibility of an upset more in this series than I would in the Edmonton-Winnipeg series, but no. I mean, I think Toronto's just too deep. Montreal's been, all year, well, after a pretty good start and then fading and then changing coaches. It's just the whole year. It's kind of been a bit of treading water for them. And over 7 games, can they really get 4 wins against Toronto? It just seems like too much of a mismatch on paper for that. But I'm excited about it. I think the Habs are going to put up a heck of an effort. It's going to be stingy. I think there's going to be some pretty good feistiness there. You think of Brendan Gallagher, and he's just made for the playoffs. That guy, and him causing trouble in front of the net. And we heard today that Jack Campbell, kind of the expected decision that he'll get the net to start game 1, and we'll see how he does. The playoffs are a different animal.
Yeah, I have to, for the most part, agree with him there. I would love to see Montreal pull it off, but yeah, with the depth that Toronto has, it's just hard to bet against them.
It'll come. I've said this so many times this year about the Habs. It's going to come down to their centers. It's going to come down to Nick Suzuki, Kotkaniemi, and Danault. If they can step up and be legit, like step into their roles, the 1, 2, 3 C's, and match up against Matthews, Tavares, and is Kerfoot the 3 seed right now there, Devin, or is it someone else?
I think they're switching between him and potentially Spezza. I don't know exactly what they're looking at right now. Let me look it up.
But yeah, if they can find a way to match up with them and not get and not let those two big lines specifically get some runway and start controlling play, then that'll go huge for Montreal to try and make this and turn and upset the Leafs in this series.
The other thing is too is if the Canadians win Game 1, this becomes a really fascinating. This becomes a fascinating conversation. And Carey Price is playing, and look, there's so many questions, so many ways that you could argue about where Carey Price is at. But if he is a guy that has been known to steal games, if he's at Carey Price level and they win the first game, this is a very different series.
Well, I just can't wait for the reaction if the Habs win the first game and the doom and gloom sky is falling reaction from Leafs Nation.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that.
Well, I did that all year. Lose to Vancouver. Oh my God, what's happening?
Yeah, it happens a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised, especially with having. So you have that top line of Marner and Matthews, and insert either Hyman and Foligno, but then I believe they're going with a Tavares, Nylander, and once again Hyman or Foligno, which means that where's Galchenyuk get put in? He might actually be with Tavares, and they might actually put Nylander down to the third line and have him as the third line center. Just to have a little bit more depth, because that's what you were looking at yesterday with TJ Oshie on that third line in the Capitals game. So. And also going back to Pittsburgh when they won the Cup and they had the HBK line, Kessel was on that third line. So having that depth is massive. So just going back to the Winnipeg series, that's where I see the benefit of having 3 lines you can roll instead of just relying on 2. But I'd be very interested to see how Sheldon Keefe really deploys his units out.
Yeah, a lot of veteran presence against a lot of youth. I also would not be surprised if Cole Caulfield is a factor in this series. I think he's played really well so far. If I'm the Habs, I at least play him in the first game. I think he can give some sort of spark. I would do that, but yeah, I see the Leafs winning this series, but I think that there are some factors that if the Habs win the first game and if Price is Price, I don't think it's as optimistic as some people in the Leafs media is saying. I wouldn't underestimate the Habs in this series.
Yeah, well, right now there doesn't seem to be any seeds of doubt, and if the first game doesn't go Toronto's way, that all changes. So. Yeah.
And just going back to the lines here, Chris Johnson tweeted out 2 hours ago that there's no Galchenyuk within the lineup. So they actually have Nash in the middle with Kerfoot and Mikheyev on that third line. So it will be good to see how good Nash is and how he can help that PK out.
Yeah.
Talk about we talked about this a little bit yesterday with other series with Tampa and other teams bringing back injured players in time for the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see if Riley Nash can step in and be at the level that Montreal and the rest of Toronto are at.
Yeah. That's an interesting move on that part. I'm wondering. There's probably going to be some gamemanship with the lines here, though, too, both ends. So, yeah. So, we'll see. We'll see. Anything else that we want to, in terms of the North, that we need to speak about in terms of this? I feel like we gave a good.
Yeah, I just Kevin, you brought up earlier the ref you suck chant there in the Caps Bruins game. It's just I'm stating the obvious here, but it's just too bad there won't be any fans in the building for the North Division games. if it felt more like what we're used to last night watching the Caps Bruins game with some fans present. So, but the hockey will be good still.
I may have something ridiculous. I hoping for at least when we get to the Final Four that there is an option for fans in one of these arenas. I really do. Like, no matter what fan base it is, I would love to at least see some in there. I know that's the chances are under 10% that's going to happen. But I would hope that can happen.
I think if it were to happen, it's only going to be Edmonton that would be a possibility there.
It won't be Winnipeg. Manitoba's is dealing with some major spike here. Ontario, and Quebec. I don't know what Quebec's numbers have been of late, but I honestly think it doesn't even matter who it is. I think it's not going to happen in the next 2 months. If fans inside arenas is going to be something that happens late in the summer, early fall.
Yeah, if we're talking in Canadian markets, it's not going to happen till the fall. That I have to agree with Sean on that one.
Yeah, Kevin, if I'm wrong, correct me. I thought I read somewhere that in regards to the BC Lions, there's going to be like a later start to the CFL season. I think in August or something, and they're looking at maybe having 4,500 fans at BC Place. So that it's a very big stadium.
I got news for you.
Yeah,
the CFL season isn't starting.
You don't think so?
Nope. Ontario is not having any outdoor events, and at least in Toronto. I mean, from what I understand, until the end of the summer. And BC Bonnie Henry has not said that they're okay with BC the Lions playing yet. So
they're hoping for that timeline to work.
Yeah, that's I don't if it's starting, it's not August 5th. That's what I'm. That's my prediction here.
Yeah.
Sorry, CFL fans.
Well, the skepticism's valid there, I would say.
Well, and with that in mind, there, like, as much as we want to see fans in arenas for if one of these 4 Canadian teams make it all the way, like it's not going to happen because indoor versus outdoor at this point is completely different.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to allow outdoor, whether it's the Argos or whatever, like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And both of these series too, the Montreal Toronto. I mean, the fact that there's no fans in these, I think is sad. And Winnipeg Edmonton too. I mean, 2 really strong fan bases that have. Like, they haven't played since the late 80s against each other. This is the first time the Oilers have played a Canadian team since they played the Flames in 1991.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean... Yeah.
Just a question, though. Have there been rumblings about where the final 2 rounds will be hosted?
My understanding is that the NHL is working with the Canadian government to provide an exemption to have the home games, to have the home games go the way that they would all the time. So not a bubble. That's my understanding of that situation.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the vaccination timeline and protocols and. I would think if it's going to happen, it's going to be because at the political level they want to kind of send the signal that normal starting to return. Got to be careful doing that, obviously, because of complacency with the public. But I could see that happening. I could see that the timing working out for that. But it's a believe it when I see it. Otherwise, they got to find a neutral site.
If it doesn't, I believe it's not even a bubble that they'll be looking at. I think they'd be looking at just moving the Canadian team to an American city that's close enough to whoever they're playing, but not necessarily encroaching on their territory.
Yeah.
So like Toronto playing in Buffalo sort of situation.
Maybe.
Yeah, something like that, I think.
And we have a goal. Oh, we have 2 goals. Oh my God. Brock Nelson just scored for New York Islanders to go ahead with 4 minutes to go. Then Kasperi Kapanen just ties it up with 3:39 to go. Holy.
So
Woo!
You got multiple games on the go there, Devin?
There's only one game right now.
there's only one game.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, the way you worded it made me think that there was 2. Sorry.
Oh man. Crazy.
Yeah.
But the Islanders are exploiting Jari's glove hand. Whew. Not good. Casey DeSmith maybe next game. Who knows? Woo-wee. I love playoff hockey, boys. Fuck yeah! This time of year is so good.
Could we get 2 for 2 on playoff overtimes as well here?
Oh,
That'd be fun.
Or
That would be a lot.
did I say it too soon?
Yeah, I got 3.5 to go here. We'll find out.
Also, I think that was 41 minutes before our first F-bomb this time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the Twitter,
well.
41 minutes, 15 seconds.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Not bad.
You're
Yesterday we were a little earlier. But depends on the game. I mean, Chris Tyler, do you have a particular Stanley Cup favorite? Devin, Sean, and I yesterday. I'm going Colorado, Tampa.
If I were to be able to choose a final, I'm a little biased because in the playoff pool with the Pig and Duke, I have Carolina. So I would love to see Carolina and Colorado play together in the final.
Yeah, I that was my thinking as well. I think Carolina. That's a bit of a bold pick. Colorado, the President's Trophy winning team. They've been knocking at the door for a while. At some point here, they're going to punch through, and I like the way they're looking this year.
Yeah, now that Tampa won their cup, they're no longer a dark horse pick. So Colorado's kind of my new dark horse pick, if you will.
Yeah.
Carolina, Toronto. Let's go.
Hey,
David Ayers, Conn Smythe winner.
Everyone was talking about Leafs Bruins, Devin. Here's another one that would be fascinating. Leafs Islanders.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be a really good one.
And if
Love
there's
that.
fans on the island, you're not welcome here.
We need another John Tavares day then.
That would be a story for sure.
Well, I think of Leafs Islanders in the playoffs. I'm not thinking of Tavares. I'm thinking back. I think it was 0-2. Devin helped me, but they had a first round playoff series, and it was ugly back then. Of course, those were in the Darcy Tucker days, and
Shane Corson.
A lot of different personalities. It's a very hard nosed bunch on both sides there. The good old days.
Back at the end of
Yashin and DiPietro were still in the books.
Yeah.
Like
Yashin just got off. He just got off last year. He's getting off this year. One of the two. Is that not?
I think DiPietro's close. Is he still?
That was before DiPietro, I think.
My God.
I've got the Islanders lineup now up, and it's Yashin, Adrian Aucoin, Roman Hamrlik. Let's see here. Brad Isbister, Dave Scatchard, Mike Pekka.
Oh man, Pekka.
Couple of former Canucks there too.
Yeah, I was about to say there's like 3 former Canucks right in a row.
In net, it's Chris Osgood and Garth Snow.
Garth Snow's getting double pay.
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
And in net for the Leafs was Cujo.
Yeah.
Talk about a legend. Oh my God.
And on that team would have been Travis Green.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
He had 4 points in that series.
How many Pims?
16.
There you go.
Well, he might be going back to New York at the end of this year. Who knows?
Yeah, let's
Look at that segue. That's
beautiful. That's how you segue. Nice.
You are driving the bus today, Devin.
Shooter.
The Vancouver Canucks front office episode drama continues. It looks like, from all indications, change is afoot. in some indications. And I guess we will wait and see. A lot of this is wait and see, but it is looking like there are speculation, and the indication is the preparation for Jim Benning and Travis Green to be out next year. Green, of course, without a contract. The great mystery that we in the Hockey Podcast have never been able to solve. But looking like a new direction in some ways. I don't know where to start. I don't know what the question, I guess, I don't know what the first question is on this, because it just feels to be...
Part of it would be to just talk about what Sakaris was reporting or musing about on his show, where he was talking about how the Aquilinis have reached a sort of a point where they realize that Jim Benning is no longer sellable to a large portion of the Canucks fan base. And when that's the case, you have to make a decision, and that's either doubling down on Jim Benning and being at his 7th year on the job, and he's already said that he feels like this team's 2 years away, or you have to find a new voice and bring in someone new. And I think it has to be the latter at this point. You look at what he's done. Yeah, he's had some good, like, drafting wise. It's solid. It's not as spectacular as many people want to make it out to be, because he still hasn't really brought in anyone who has, from the 3rd round on, that has turned into anything. They've got some potential with some of the draft picks, but no one's really stepped in. Gaudette was like the best one they had, and they've traded him away. But I think it is legit just time to move on. Time for a fresh face, a new voice, and someone who can try and rally the fan base so that you move on, and as opposed to the fan base just bickering amongst each other, whether or not you support Benning or want him gone, or sort of looking at things trying to in the more of the middle sense.
Before we go on, Devin, can we just get an update?
Oh, it's going to OT.
OT, baby.
Second game in a row of
Right on.
hockey. Let's go.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah. So, in regards to the Aquilini family, feeling like right now they've discovered that Benning can't be sold to the fan base anymore. I mean, that's a bit amazing by itself. I mean, you'd think that at the halfway point that would have been the case already, because I mean, he had that disastrous press conference there, and and then all the stuff made about him living day to day and all that.
And clearly, he heard Sean's rant too, right?
Yeah. It sure feels like the clouds are forming above everybody in the organization, and we've talked offline here. I don't think it would surprise any of us here if the hammer dropped after their final game on Wednesday. It is one of those where there's smoke, there's fire type of things. There didn't seem to be very much smoke earlier in the season. It was just a lot of kind of waxing in the media, but not really much sort of, oh, here's somebody, that they're talking to. And now that's happening with Jeff Courtnall, maybe just seeking some, as Ian McIntyre called, counsel, a little advice from Jeff Courtnall. And apparently he was a fairly close confidant with the Aquilinis in past reviews of the organization and management decisions. Look, no, they can't come back with the status quo, whether it's on merit or otherwise. The perception doesn't work. They can't come back with the status quo. But I would say it's still a possibility that the Aquilinis still believe in most of what Benning's doing, and maybe they change coaches and he gets one more year. But I think that's a smaller percentage possibility than the more obvious choice of changing at the general manager position. But we'll see. I mean, I think I don't think that's a certainty either.
For me personally, I hate the fact that it seems almost like certain that Green is gone and that Benning might stay. I want it to be the opposite way around. I want to keep Green, and I want Benning to be the one that's definitely leaving. But just yeah, I hate to overuse a phrase, but we'll see how things play out after the last game on Wednesday, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason.
I love the idea that once that final buzzer hits, there's a press release saying that Benning's fired. It's just like instantly,
they're playing
boom.
a day game, right? So it's entirely possible.
It is entirely possible.
Yeah.
And I'm just look. The Canadians and the Leafs are opening Wednesday night. Aquilini has already tried to step up the Leafs with the vote of confidence tweets that he made on that Saturday hockey night with the Green and Benning the earlier in the year.
Yes, the vote of confidence.
The vote of confidence tweets. It would not surprise me if he tweets it out. I would not be surprised actually if Benning if they do the drop. If they do it at the end of the year, at least Benning. I don't know about.
I hate to do this to you, Kevin, but I believe the Leafs and Habs start on Thursday.
Yes.
So, but you never know.
I mean,
but
it's
Thursday
not,
during the day ahead of their game.
ahead of the Oilers. It's not above Aquilini to make sure that the Canucks are part of the spotlight of hockey night in Canada. That's my point. You're right. Sorry. So I'm Rob McClading this again. But
I believe when they fired Dave Notice, that was in the middle of playoff action as well, back in that whenever that was 2008, I think. And yeah, that was another one of those where they stole the attention. I don't think that's being done really on purpose, but I don't think he minds.
It's the end of the season, right? It happens. Like it doesn't. Like you're if you were NHL and Bettman, yeah, you kind of want the focus to be on the playoffs and the on ice product, but these teams and companies have to continue to run and move on. And if they want to, especially this season, when you've got not only the draft coming up in a compressed off season, but you've got the expansion draft, and then with the Canucks that they have to make decisions on whether or not it's going to what's going to happen with their coaching staff and everything. So the earlier they make that move, the better off they are. To setting up whoever's taking over.
I looked at the Nonis stat, and he was fired on the 14th of April in 2008.
Yeah,
so that would have been basically the last regular season game under normal times, I would assume.
I think it was right around when the playoffs would have started. But you'd have to check.
Within like a week period,
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess where do we want the Canucks to go? That's the question. So let's assume the announcement happens. Benning is gone. Benning is announced gone on after Wednesday. What are you hoping the Canucks' next step is?
General manager with a proven track record or some kind of prior NHL experience at that position is what we're hoping for. But I've said this before. I am skeptical about certain general managers maybe not wanting to work for the Aquilinis. I think that's a real obstacle that people have to consider out there.
As in that he's not easy to work with, and that someone would turn him down.
That he's a meddler.
Yeah, if you're Jim Rutherford, yeah, you might still want to be in the game, but do you really want to come to a kind of not so Canadian market and then have a boss that's like an owner that wants to be involved in the hockey operation? Doesn't seem very attractive to a guy like that, does it?
Yeah, you want autonomy if you have a proven track record.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that some of the talk is about a little bit about that and how it's not just Francesco that's in on this decision. It's the whole family. It's Luigi and Roberto that are both coming in and talking and having these discussions. And what I think I saw one, I can't remember where it came from, but and I don't know how true it is, but there's some scuttlebutt out there that both Roberto and Luigi are thinking that Francesco's too attached to Benning to make this decision properly, too attached to what's gone on to make this decision properly. So maybe that does change things. Granted, it's so hard to when you've got that track record and and the thoughts on that they do meddle, then it's until you prove that you haven't and won't anymore, there are going to be people who are skeptical. But yeah, I want to see them go get someone with a proven track record, has been a GM in the league before. I want someone who has been a GM and president in the league before, so that they can handle all of that, and they can start building out the front office again, because the front office in Vancouver right now is not there. Like it's one of the smallest in the league. And I think with the Canucks that's one spot that Canucks, if they're, and the Aquilinis, if they really, really want to start pushing and trying to develop a winning attitude, a winning culture, you need to build that. You need to build that in the front office as well. It's not just on the ice. It's not just in the locker room. It's in the front office as well. So that's bringing it, like making sure who you bring in has the autonomy and you have the right collaboration between everyone. And I think with everyone from right now, it's Green, Ian Clark, go back to Judd Brackett. It doesn't feel like that's the case right now under this regime.
Communication is as much a problem as, return on a trade or how much of a salary you're going to offer to a free agent. Like, communication has clearly been an issue externally with the fans in particular, but also we hear rumblings internally, communication being an issue. And, I think another strike against Jim Benning, if your ownership conducting the review, is the handling of the COVID outbreak and feelings amongst, again, it's just scuttlebutt, but it sounds like the players weren't overly thrilled with how that was handled by the organization either.
Yeah. Just to jump back a half thought, Frankie being too loyal to his yes man, you don't say.
Yeah.
Well, and to have a successful organization, it does come down from the top, from the owners down to upper management, down to the coaches, and down to the players. If you don't have that cohesiveness and you don't have that order, then it can be complete and utter chaos. I mean, you might have a good organization just by luck within not having that order, but that's where it starts. Leadership. Mm-hmm. Jim Benning does not have the leadership, and the Aquilinis have shown that they don't have the proper leadership skills to just let it happen, just to hands off. And so I feel sorry for Canucks fans. I really do, because you guys do have a good organization. You have good building blocks in place. It sounds like you have a fantastic coach that you're potentially not bringing back, but it's really unfortunate that it's going the way it is, and we're reading tea leaves right here because we don't know what's going to happen, but it doesn't look good.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree, Dev. I think it does look good if things are starting to change here and we're starting to see them realize the error of their ways and starting to look at changing things, and starting with Jim Benning. If that's the case, that's positive. I can't say it for me, but if they don't, if they do this and Jim Benning's still the GM after this, that's when I'll agree with you. But right now, with everything, the tea leaves that we're reading, change is coming. It sounds like they're starting to realize what the issues are, and they're going to try and fix them. Maybe that's just the fan in me, but I have to take that and look at that this is a positive, as opposed to just constant, like the same old that we've had for 2-3 years here with Jim Benning and the Aquilinis, just not understanding why nothing's changed.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of things with this, right? I think the loudest segment of the fan base, by loud we're talking radio call-in shows and Twitter, I think it's simplified basically like it's the general manager's fault. We like the core, stop signing free agents. That seems to be the general theme. But I think, I really hope the organization goes deeper than that. I think if you're going to start blowing up the front office and bringing about fairly significant change, everybody, including the core players, need to be under the microscope. And don't want people to take this the wrong way and say that I'm shitting on the core players, but this year's been a terrible year for the Canucks, and that includes the top players, and let's hope that they bounce back. I mean, we saw this year Brock Besser bounce back after a down year last year, but really, Elias Pettersson only played half the schedule, but pretty underwhelming performance from him this year. Let's hope he bounces back. Quinn Hughes, I wasn't, it was okay, but we had high standards for Quinn Hughes. I mean, those are, to me, the two best players. Thatcher Demko, great. I think we're in good hands with Thatcher Demko. Pretty happy with Horvat. But after that, like it's meh, like top to bottom. Like we should not, as fans, be just giving certain players a pass because we're in love with them. Like, everybody needs to be under the microscope, because if they're not, this could turn into a Calgary situation down the road where there's change all around the edges, but not with the core, and they're not getting anywhere. That's my concern.
So if you were going to trade one of those players, who would you pick?
Well, I think we've talked before, like Besser seems to be the one where you could really net some return. I mean, that, just he's some people might call him a one-dimensional player. I think his outside of his shot, and his scoring, I think the rest of his game is developing, but I think that's an attractive piece for people. I don't see Horvat going anywhere. I don't see Pettersson going anywhere, but Besser is somebody that they might be able to net a return on.
Sean, do you? I'm putting you on the spot here, and I apologize. Do you know what his underlying stats is, Besser?
What are you looking for? Like, he's
just positive outtake, because if he's not if he's a one-dimensional player, but you guys have alluded that he's being better on both sides of the puck.
Yeah, and he's put up decent numbers this year. Of course, it's a different year, but a lot of offense in the North Division. But yeah, he's done what he's supposed to be doing. He's it's that shot and scoring goals.
Like, everyone's sort of possession numbers on the Canucks have kind of tanks this year. He's got a 48.9% on Corsi, so that's your shot attempts. But that's also, he's also at on the positive side, on the relativity. So he's been one of the better ones on the team for that. His underlying numbers are good. Like, I disagree with Tyler on that. I don't think you trade Brock Besser. Like, unless you're getting a true number one, like top pair defenseman coming back, like, what's the point of trading him when what's one of the problem issues with the Canucks up front is their forward depth, especially on the right side.
Yeah, my point is you don't just say, okay, no, we're making a trade just to blow up the core, but there shouldn't be untouchables, I guess is what I'm saying. You're bringing new management. All those ideas you should be open to those ideas.
If you're making a change up top, then you have the whole organization has to be talked about and discussed. Pettersson's season was cut short, but he was still on pace for the same amount of points that he's had in his first two seasons before this. So, like, on an 82 game schedule type deal, his point production was basically on par with his first two seasons. And I think that, we're hoping to see him take a step forward. He didn't, but I also players' development is never linear. Never linear. So having those young players like with Pettersson and Hughes not necessarily having their best seasons, but still being good. But yeah, you still have to look at other players. I think one target would be JT Miller. I think you could get a lot for a JT Miller if that's the way you look at it. But he's also a little bit older. May not be within the true winning
timeline.
Timeline with this team. So you have to look at that. I think it all comes down to what you're looking to get in return for them and what they actually do return, because the Canucks need to do something with that blue line, fix that blue line somehow, because they've got a couple decent pieces, and Rathbone looks like another good piece. but they still need to find a way to build out that build the depth in that on the blue line and move on from some of the older players, including Alex Edler.
Yeah. And then the other part of this too, and the other cautionary tale, and I would say, is that even if a new general manager comes in, do we really think that the Aquilinis are going to resist the urge to spend money in free agency? And again, in professional sports ownership, that's the one thing they can do. When they get to spend money and buy players, they're going to do that. And we just got to cross our fingers and hope that the Aquilinis sort of have learned from that being an issue. And, if you bring in a more experienced general manager and say, no, that's not good value, listen to that. So we'll see. We can hope for that. I'm skeptical about that. I think you may bring in a different general manager with some different philosophies and better communication skills. But I want to see what happens on at the start of free agency, normally July 1st. I want to see what happens there. That'll be the true signal as to whether there's been a true organizational philosophical shift. If they resist the urge to spend big bucks on veteran players in free agency.
I know we probably want to move on, but my synopsis is that with the emergence of Höglander, with the Puck Colson coming in, projected to be a top 6-9 player, outside of Pettersson and Hughes, anybody is available in my mind, even Horvat. Because imagine the return you'd get for a Horvat, realistically, right? So outside of those two players, it's fair game. It's quite similar to what's happening here in Calgary. Everybody is pretty much on the table. So if you can see a good timeline, like Sean said, like JT Miller, I could definitely see him going, and then start building with the Jack Rathbones of the world within your organization, and project that you will be good within the next 2 to 3 years when Pettersson is at his prime, in his peak, and kind of work around that.
For me, I think, I would say that Hughes and Pettersson are on their own level in terms of untouched, like in that quote unquote untouchable for trades. No one is, but and then I would have a second level which has Demko, Horvat, and Besser, and then you've got your young players that you're going to try and build around. But in terms of that sort of, I want to say older but still young core, I think that's how you do it, and you don't say no to listening to offers on those players, but the price to get them away, especially someone like Horvat, who is the captain and is just so well respected in and outside the dressing room, it'd be so hard to try. Like, again, you could get a lot for him, but what about building making sure that you've got the right culture and the right everything in that locker room?
It's tough balance.
And that's, to me, I don't know how you improve this team realistically without trading one of Miller, Horvat, or Besser. Like, to me, I look at the value of where this team is at. You're not trading. I don't think you trade Pettersson. You're certainly not. If I'm the Canucks general manager, I'm not trading Hughes, and I'm not trading Demko at this particular point in time. Everyone else on your bottom end you could trade, but you're not going to get a lot for. The ones that you're going to get some value for are a Horvat, Besser, or a Miller. And I got to be honest with you. I don't know what you can get. I don't know if you'll get what you think that you can get for JT Miller. That's a guy that has been traded a few times.
But he's also gotten good returns all those times.
Although
that's fair, but
if they got less than a first rounder, Canucks Twitter will lose their mind.
I'm going to exaggerate here for a minute, but people got to get past the idea that trading Jake Virtanen or Brandon Sutter is going to net a first-round pick in return. Like, people got to get past that thinking. It's again,
is that actually?
No.
Okay.
Just exaggerating, but people have to realize that if trading the supporting cast players is only going to get you other spare parts type supporting cast players.
The other thing you have to ask yourself if you're the new GM coming in is, what is the best approach? Is it just trying to see what you have. Don't make any big trades. Build from the good young players that you have coming up. You've got Rathbone coming up. You got Podkolzin coming up. Hoaglander's been a great revelation for the team. You still have Pedersen and Hughes and Besser still young. I think for me, if it's a new GM, I think there'll be a lot more patience from the fan base to say what we're going to do is let our young players develop more and then make a move to see what we can, after this upcoming season, then make a move to see what we can do to step the game up and see what you have. Because if you let that happen, you've got Podkolzin now. You're dealing a lot more from a position of strength as opposed to weakness.
And I also think you have to, like, if you're a general manager, there's another couple things to think about here. We talked about how the Pacific Division, as former, is going to be wide open. So maybe there's a run in here with this core. Who knows? But you've got a 2022 and a 2023 draft that's going to be back to normal. We should be back to somewhat normal, that you're going to have more prospects to have a deeper look at. If there was a time to make sure that you at least get draft picks, I'm not saying tank, I'm saying get draft picks, this would be the time to do it. If you can get another first rounder, that would be nice. I'm not saying that this whole first rounder, that everybody in the first round is a franchise player, but more draft picks help. I mean, you look at Ottawa, like, as an example. They traded Erik Karlsson, and everybody was like, what the hell are you thinking with that trade? And now they ended up with 2 lottery picks for getting Erik Karlsson. So, that's, I guess, one of the decisions that you have to make. To me, this is the priority with Vancouver. They need a president of hockey ops. They need that guy that is almost the go-between. And if I am the Canucks, and I have a briefcase full of cash, I don't, but I would be doing whatever I can to see if I can get John Davidson into the fold. And he would be the guy to run the organization. He's got the media savvy. He's been in a major market. He's from Western Canada. I think that would be the guy. If I'm the Canucks, I would do what I can to get John Davidson in.
I mean, it just seems like a long shot because there hasn't been really any discussion about that. But that would be a high credibility hire there if you could bring him in. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, like, you look at the Canucks are in a position where I fear that they're going down that old Oilers path before Ken Holland came in. Well, we're going to go with the alumni because the alumni knows the organization, and there's value in that. But there's also, you need some fresh eyes. And that's what I do think what Ken Holland has brought to the Oilers is a little bit of fresh eyes and a fresh perspective. And a guy that said to Daryl Cates, I'm not doing this unless you give me full autonomy.
Yeah. And before we talk a little bit about that, I think it is key to mention that the Jeff Courtnall talks sounds all about him being an advisor, not necessarily president or any major position.
Yeah.
If they do go that way, that's I agree with you, Kev. That's the wrong way. But if they bring in someone like that they trust as an advisor to help them through this transition and bring in someone like that, and Courtnall's advised them in that way before. Courtnall was one of the voices that told him to go after Mike Gillis and bring him in.
Spot when IMAX said that.
Yeah. So you have, like, if Courtnall's done that in the past, I think he's going to do it again, because I think he saw how close they got with going with someone who give him the autonomy, letting him run the front office the way he wants, not dabbling in it there as an owner. If Courtnall can recreate that and bring someone else in that has that cachet, and they allow him that person to run the front office the way he wants to, that'll be huge. And that's when I heard that part about the Courtnall talks and found out and heard Ian McIntyre saying that he was one of the Jeff Courtnall was one of the voices that told them to go after Mike Gillis. That gave me hope that maybe this is where they're going again.
Yeah. Talk about one of the most sought after jobs is being an advisor. You have no responsibility. You just get asked questions and just go.
I want to be an advisor. Can I advise? I'll just advise.
Yeah. To just go to stakeholder, holders and be like, oh yeah, hey, how's it going? Let's go for a beer. Oh yeah, what a fantastic job that would be.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought up the word stakeholders, because I want to one of the aspect I want to get into here is what is the pulse of season ticket holders? I mean, it's been an odd year. There haven't been fans, but normally the ownership the season ticket holders get to have the little summit with ownership and the top people in the organization. And I'm a believer that often a season ticket base is not quite the same reflection of the rest of the fan base. Season ticket holders are a little less up and down with their feelings around the team. They're obviously very committed to the team because of the money that has to be forked out. And a lot of them, I think, they buy season tickets for the cultural status symbol part of having season tickets to an NHL team, as opposed to really being concerned about the standings. So, if the Aquilinis feel that the season ticket base is really, on fire about how things are going, then there's going to be dramatic change. But if the waters seem calmer in the season ticket base, then we'll see how much change actually happens. I'm not a big believer in the idea that with the season ticket holders there's like this irreparable damage to the brand or whatever. I don't feel like it's the same with the season ticket holders as it is with other people that are very vocal through social media and on radio.
I disagree, and the reason I say that is, you're right. If you're probably the radio commentator, the Twitter commentator, all of that is probably going to be more vocal than the season ticket holder. But you're looking at an economic situation where a lot of these season ticket holders are people that have run small businesses, that are more in the higher, not super high income, but doing well enough to purchase season tickets. Not necessarily even in Vancouver, but around the Lower Mainland. With the current economic situation where people are at as we get out of the pandemic and move into whatever sort of number normalcy this is, that dollar, Brian Burke talked about this, it's going to take a lot of time for a lot of NHL teams to recover to get that dollar back. And I'm not entirely convinced that season ticket dollar is going to be there and as easy to get.
Well, as long as they don't try to raise the prices. That we'll see what they decide there. That's a tough call.
It may not matter about prices if it's tough to live here. It's tough to live here even in normal times, and if it's going to become a little bit more expensive, and you need to make some decisions on your dollar, I do think that the Canucks have some work to do in terms of this organization that goes far beyond what the Twitter and the radio call-in commentator is making. I do think that they are going to have to recreate that relationship. It's not that the brand necessarily, it's in part maybe that the brand is damaged because of betting, but it's in part of the situation that they're in. You don't want to be taking, let's look at the CFL. Let me just flip the CFL into this conversation here as an example. I think that they just assumed that everything would be okay and we would be back to somewhat normal, and they didn't stay on them in a relationship with their customer. I think it's very important for the Canucks to stay in relationship with their customer, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
And I do think that they will have to make some decisions based on where that is. I think they have some work to do.
So if I'm hearing you right here, then I agree with all your points. I mean, economically, people might look at the luxury of having season tickets under the current times and say, yeah, it's a luxury. I don't want to spend money on right now. But does the needle move because they changed general managers? I mean, I think if for a lot of people that might not matter at all. If they can't afford them, they can't afford them.
I think
go for it, Kev.
I think as the season goes on, if the Canucks are more successful, I think people will start dropping money for game packs or single game tickets. Yeah. But I think season tickets, it's going to be tough. Go ahead.
I think for single game, just a very quick one. I think for single game, there's going to be, as soon as people can get back in the building, I think there'll be definitely an appetite for hockey, regardless of the Canucks' performance on single tickets. But yeah, season tickets, that's there's a lot of factors there, certainly. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a half-empty building, but it's going to soften. It's softened before.
Yeah. The way I look at it is whether or not if they can't afford the season tickets, they're not going to buy them, right? But that's not, unfortunately, that's out of Aquilini's hands. You're going to have the diehards. They're going to have their tickets no matter what. Yeah. But it's that middle ground. It's the ones who are passionate, but they also vote with their wallet. And when things are a little tighter, if the Canucks are good and you're feeling good about where they are, they're gonna keep their season tickets. But if you're not selling success or hope, and that's the problem right now with the Canucks, is there's a lack of hope and there's no success. And if you don't have that, they're gonna go, maybe there's somewhere else I can spend this amount of money, and I don't have or save it, and I don't feel the weight of the financial burden.
Yeah. Yeah. It does become the "is it money well spent" question for people, right?
And that's where it is. Is like, is it money well spent to go watch a game wherein you've got like a handful of players that you like watching play, but the rest of it is not built well, that you're not celebrating wins as often. And when even the losses are not like good games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely possible. They say bye-bye to two or three of the older players, and they buy out Louis Eriksson, and they make those kinds of changes and leave the core intact, and then suddenly they get off to a good start next year. That's entirely possible. I mean, if they get off to say 10-3 start or something like that, I think the brand will be looking a lot better at that point. It could turn around fairly quickly. Not saying it will, but let's not think automatically it's going to be a season and a half of digging out of the hole here. I don't. Well, certainly Aquilini's not going to want to hear that from whoever he hires.
Yeah, I think I do think that there's more of a dig than I think. I think the assumption that we're just a hockey market and everybody's going to come back and sing Kumbaya and bring all together. I'm not thinking that. And then you've got the Kraken. And look, it would be, we haven't been across the border in 14 months. You've got an opportunity to do a Kraken / Seahawks weekend a couple of times. I have a little bit of extra money. I might choose that over a Canucks game.
Well,
there's a novelty with the Kraken. Seattle.
With Seattle, like you've got the Canucks fans who live in northern Washington and even in the lower mainland that can go down to Seattle to watch games. How many if you don't feel confident in what the Canucks are doing, you're going to go and potentially become a Kraken fan, and I think that's big as well, and that's why I think consumer confidence and branding are a major issue when having this discussion, because when you've got a brand new shiny organization just down south that can take away money from the Canucks pockets because you have a consumer confidence issue. That's huge, and I think that's why they're having this conversation, and that's why if all the rumors are starting to to a lot. The rumors seem to be starting to align that Benning's not coming back. That's why they have to make that decision. If this was 2 years ago and you don't have Seattle, I think there would be a little more willing to be patient, even if it was even if we're just like we're in the same spot now, but the only difference is that there's no Seattle coming in. I think there'd be a little bit more willing to be patient, but with Seattle coming in, I think there's a little more urgency to fix this consumer confidence issue.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I mean, even around here when Vegas came in, I can think of a half dozen people that were suddenly Golden Knights fans just right off the bat. Something new to start fresh with, and unfortunately, if that's going to be a big issue with people in Vancouver that should be supporting the Canucks, I guess my comment would be they're pretty fickle fans, aren't they?
Well, we do have a reputation, don't we?
I hate to say that, but that's a little bit disappointing. Support the local team. Come on, guys.
Hey, that's why I got this.
Yeah.
I mean, be Robin Leonard. Put Alex Petrone. Put a Canuck tattoo on your hat. Come on.
Yeah. Just one other thing, though, in terms of dollars being spent on that whole, there's this new team that's close by. I mean, I do think that works the other way as well. And the Aquilinis have definitely been very supportive of trying to build that rivalry with Seattle, because I'm sure they're having some hope of getting the fans coming north for some road action as well.
Oh, I think both ways. I mean, yeah. Can we flip this conversation to Calgary for a second here? Because I mean, we're not hearing any reports of. We don't have that knowledge, or not the public reports. But this is it's an interesting situation in Calgary as well. You've got Edmonton in the playoffs. Depending on how far they go, if they win the North, there's going to be no fan base that's going to feel that more than the Flames fan base, for sure. And you've got a situation where this season, like we talk about the disaster the Canucks season was, that was far more disappointing in Calgary than Vancouver. The expectations were much higher. More money was spent. You had to switch coaches. You've got you also have, and I'm not trying to, it is going to add something in here. You've got a mayor election, and you've got a new arena deal that I think that some people are still very standoffish about.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start with Devin on this from this perspective. Is there going to be a challenge in getting people back into the Saddle Dome?
Yeah, definitely a good possibility. It depends on what happens in this off season. Getting people back into the Dome, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think once there is that new stadium or arena, then it depending on where it's at, and if it keeps on going the way that it has been, the expectations are high, and the product on the ice doesn't match that, then yeah, it's definitely a good possibility that you're going to have that. So that's why I think these next few years are very important. And actually this offseason is very important to make sure that you do keep, the fans happy, coming back and watching. I guess I'm backtracking on what I just said, but even next year, especially with what's going on here in Calgary, the economy isn't the best. It wasn't the best before the COVID outbreak. And, I always look for the cheap seats every time that I went. But are people going to be that have the money here going to be spending money to go see a lackluster effort and team? I don't know. This is a massive offseason for Brad Tree Living and the upper brass of the Calgary Flames organization. Something's got to give, and they got to make some moves.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna. There's going to be issues getting.
Whoa! OT winner, baby! New York Islanders up 1-0.
Well, as Mitch now is said here, and can you imagine what he is feeling right now?
Oh my God. Paul Mary scored, it looked like, as far as like the celebration goes. And Elias Sorokin gets his first playoff win, considering I thought or most of us probably thought they're going to go Varlamov in net, but Sorokin gets the W.
Varlamov got hurt.
He's not even dressed.
There you go.
But I don't think we're gonna have issues here in Calgary filling the dome, at least to start. I think there's going to be a lot of anxious people wanting to get back in and watching live hockey. But Devin is right in how important this offseason is. The new arena is supposed to be ready for the 24-25 season, so we're what, 3 years away from that, and you want to be right going and being competitive, and for a cup, let alone just playoffs. If you're the Flames going into that arena, and I think the way they're at right now is I don't think that fans are going to be are thinking that they can. And so this is a huge make or break offseason for the Brad Treliving era. If he can't find a way to figure out what is holding this team back and fixing it and getting them back into the playoffs and getting them back into the playoffs and actually winning a round, I think if they don't do that in this upcoming season, or if they could get off to a really horrible start, that's the end of Brad Treliving's era here in Calgary. So it's a huge off season for them. They've got to figure out. We talked about the Canucks and trading core players. I wouldn't be surprised if there's multiple core players traded out of Calgary this offseason.
It's going to be very fascinating because Treliving's really running out of cards to play. And he's played it around the edges. He finally got a credible number one goalie in there, added some veteran presence with Tanev, and where does he go next? He's changed coaches. He's brought in Daryl Sutter. There's not many cards left to play. So, keep an eye on that. I think there's a significant change to the core coming in Calgary. There has to be. There just has to be.
Sean, what makes you think? Maybe I misunderstood what you said here, but what makes you think that people are going to be automatically coming back to Flames? Just because it's hockey? Do you?
Yep. Live hockey.
That's my feeling with the Canucks too. I mean, it's for a lot of people, it's still an event to go. Hard to really know what number and how many dollars that represents, but a lot of people go to games and don't sort of link the win-loss record with whether they're going to go or not.
See, I'm seeing. Go ahead, whoever that was.
I was just gonna say that you're gonna definitely have that initial boom of people wanting to go back, just because it's that sense of normalcy again. Whether it's a sporting event, whether it's a concert, you're gonna have that initial boom of people just coming back for it. That being said, whether that consumer confidence stays in Calgary once that initial boom is over, that's the question mark in my mind.
Yeah, I just look at the Flame from my perspective. My big concern is I think there'll be the nice event. It'll be like the opening day of baseball. Everybody comes to get that because of that feeling. But I'm really, the way I'm looking at it now, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like the Flames brand is very damaged right now. I would argue that the Flames brand is the most damaged brand of the North teams right now. The most damaged brand is the Calgary Flames, just because you had the arena deal, you had the expectations that didn't meet. You brought back a Sutter, which I think some love, but there's some new school fans that are like, you're going back to the well again. I just think that there's a lot of work to do, I think, within that for the Flames and the fan base. I think that there's a lot going on there. I think it's a damaged brand.
I don't disagree with you. I think there is some work to do there, Kev, but I do think that the Calgary market is a lot more willing to just go to a hockey game and as an event. they're a lot more willing to go and enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy the sights and sounds, walking in and seeing how fast the game is live. Like there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more willing to do that in Calgary as opposed to other markets that are a lot more dialed in on team success and what makes and going through all that. Plus, I don't think that the arena issues are really hurting the Flames that much right now. I think it did back when they tried to do a few other things before they got the arena deal, but I don't think that it's hurting them now. I think that the issue right now is more building, like fixing this team and building success going forwards. I think the honeymoon period in Calgary is going to be longer than it is in Vancouver. Going back to games, because people are desperate to go back and watch live hockey games. Yeah, and I don't. You're going to have the people who are going to make a big stink about everything and complain about everything, and I think this is where Tyler was trying to has tried to come at us with the social media and everything, because it's such a negative area right now, especially. But I do think that here in Calgary, there's a lot more people that just want to go watch hockey, live hockey, go watch the Flames. And I think that honeymoon period is going to be a lot bigger next season than would be for the Canucks, where you've got so much consternation about where this team is headed and who's running it.
It'll be about, like, I'm guessing a third of the year, maybe even half the year, that honeymoon phase. And here in Calgary, in comparison to Vancouver, could probably be a quarter of the season. I think it's also the price point of the ticket sales. I think that going to the Dome, you can go get you can go to the cheap seats and pay, $30 to get in, pretty much per ticket, in comparison to what the ticket prices are going to be for that new arena. So you'll filter out those fans, I think, a bit more. But I don't want the Flames fans to be painted in that kind of light, because I feel like they do have the passion. I think right down the middle of Kevin and Sean's point, that there is some turmoil in the fan base towards what's happening here with Brad Treliving and Daryl Sutter. I don't think that the arena deal really has much to do with it as of yet. It's more so the product on the ice. I don't see. I just don't think that painting them in the way that Sean painted. It seemed like you're painting the majority of us just being like, oh yeah, let's go to an event. There's still passionate hockey fans here in Calgary. I just don't like that take. So
I wasn't trying to say it was the majority of them. I just said being a Canucks fan in Calgary and seeing both markets, I just feel that there's a lot less hypercritical talk about the Flames and in the market, and I think people are a lot more they're still critical, they're still passionate, but I think they're a lot more willing to still go to games as opposed to in Vancouver, where I think this might be a little bit more the economics of the both markets come into play here, where I think because of how expensive Vancouver is to live in comparative to Calgary, there's more expendable income here in Calgary. There can be more expendable income here in Calgary, and more people willing to use it on hockey games as opposed to Vancouver, where you've got you have other issues that are maybe hold them back a bit. And they're going to be a little more picky as to where they spend their money.
Yeah, and I think we've seen evidence of that in the past when the Oilers and the Flames both have had down years. maybe we're just seeing it the way we want to see it here. The old grass is greener on the other side effect. But it seemed like in the down years for those teams, the amount of empty seats you could see on the TV were not as noticeable in those places than it was with the Canucks, right? Like when it softens, it's visibly softened with the Canucks. However, that doesn't mean there's not a lot of people sitting up top where the seats are more affordable. But there does seem to be a little difference there. There's more up and down in the interest level with the Canucks. But I do believe coming out of the pandemic that regardless of win-loss record, people will be eager to get out to some games again.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to knock down the Flames fans' passion, because I know how passionate they are. Like I've gotten into many arguments, scuffles, and everything with them. But I think it's just I think there's just a difference in market in terms of their willingness to spend money on a product that isn't selling you, like I said, the success or hope.
Yeah, it was more so just in comparison to Vancouver, and in addressing that, like there's a lot more competition for your dollar in Vancouver, and it's a lot more expensive in Vancouver. So as far as the willingness to spend that money on a hockey game as compared to like whether it's CFL, whether it's a hot concert market in Vancouver compared to Calgary, like there's all sorts of different stuff that play into that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess I do see it a little bit different, but I think there's a lot of, we could spend another hour and 41 minutes on how to unpack. I think the fan experience, I think, is going to be a very interesting all across the National Hockey League, but I mean, especially the two markets that we cover, and junior hockey as well. I think that there's the fan experience and how you bring fans back, I think is very fast. It's a fascinating topic, and I think there's a multi layers to it because you
sounds like a good off-season episode to me.
Yes.
So let's leave it there. To go through the schedule, though, Devin and I will be beginning our playoff recaps Wednesday after Game 1 of North Division, the Winnipeg Jets facing the Edmonton Oilers. Game 1. I know Devin is already excited about that. So we will be recapping the games. Devin and I, anyway, everyone is welcome to join. And then, of course, we will be keeping an eye on the Canucks situation. If anything breaks, we will be there to talk about it. With what I've made fetch happen, Chris, the emergency podcast. Yeah, and then we will be having our Sunday regular episodes as well. We'll be going through that. Just keep an eye on our Twitter handle for the schedule. But how do we follow everyone?
I am BeardedConnect03 on Twitter.
And I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
I'm at Schneids on most social media.
Before I do my Twitter handle, I just wanted to say congratulations to Marc-Andre Fleury for being the first goalie in NHL history to play in 15 straight Stanley Cup playoffs. So an amazing accomplishment to him. But you can follow me on Twitter at Gordhouse09.
And before Kevin goes, just some late dropping news for Canucks wise. It's Jonah Gadjevich is going to slide into the lineup tonight versus the Flames.
Oh. Yeah. And by the way, the other thing we didn't talk about, but maybe Devin and I will get into this a little bit later. And at some point, Dylan Dubé is expected to play center in one of these 3 games, so which I think is a very fascinating topic in Calgary. But I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the hockey podcast, YouTube.com, the hockey podcast. Subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts. I'm waiting for someone else to interrupt me before I say everything. Okay. Everything's good. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.